Hey everyone, it's Jason. Welcome to another Nova Aetas Renaissance video. This is video number 6. Yes, we're getting up there. We're going to go over the map tiles, some of the other different scenic element, as well as some of the other couple component pieces that we missed throughout some of the videos that didn't really fit with one of the other things, like the status tokens and stuff like that. We're also going to kind of just add in the stretch goal content at the same time, because there's not a lot of extra scenic element stuff that's in these stretch goals too much, and someone will actually help explain some of it, or help us go through and look at it a little bit better. So yeah, really cool. Just the other thing I want to kind of look at here is we do have on here. So I just want to do a quick run through on here. So we do have two houses that are 3x3, two houses that are 2x4, which kind of shows how to make them. We'll look at that a little bit more in depth. But I also love that in the book it also shows the symbols they're going to be on the campaign cards. We have 4 ladders, we have 2 carts, we actually have a third cart that came with the stretch goals. We have 2 trapdoors, 2 different levers. We have 4 different trees, 4 different bushes. 2 of the bushes actually have different images on them, so it's kind of cool. We have a well, we have 4 mystic stones, 2 regular stones, a Bloodgate Gaia token. We have 4 focus tokens. We'll have 11 standard tiles plus 3 stretch goal tiles. We have a mud water tile, which is a little bit different. I missed a page here? No. The other little ones we're going to look at, do a quick look at. We have fire tokens, water tokens. We have another little one. I don't remember what it's called, but we'll show it up. And then we have line of sight tools. So that's the base game stuff we're going to look at. And then if we hop into the stretch goal, and we kind of look at that, or if I can get to that page. Alright, where are my pages? Not where they want to be. We do have some extra new mud mountain tiles, so we have 2 of them, so it adds a new element to the game. And then we're going to have a new tower, which replaces some of the other ones. And then we have a special one for a 3D element for the specific mission. So we'll take a look at it now. We'll probably come back to it. The other big thing we want to look at in here is our scenic element cards. So these are 25 cards mainly used for the exploration side missions. These are meant to be used with that, but I don't see why you couldn't in general use them in every game if you'd like to. They feature the health of each scenic element that can be attacked by heroes. Heroes may attack a scenic element with the range of one of their physical attacks. Inflicts 1 damage to a scenic element for each guy that takes a check mark of 5 or more. Some scenic elements also have prelim threat and therefore can be also attacked by enemies. Enemies attack a scenic element if their sight and there's no heroes if their target, if there are no heroes within prelim equal or greater than a scenic element, or if it prevents them from reaching a hero there to target. Enemy may attack a scenic element with a range of one of their attacks, automatically inflicts number of hits equal to the damage. Scenic elements cannot be attacked with psychic attacks. Which is kind of odd because it's like you can't throw a fireball at a house or a cart, but I guess. When a scenic element suffers less damage removed from the battlefield, some scenic elements may have effects that activate when they're removed. A card of a scenic element contains a placement rule, which indicates how it should be placed on the tile when it is drawn. So that would be C down, C right there. It might say how it has to occupy something. A card which shows one or more special traits of the elements that have special things that might happen. Yes, this is kind of a cool idea because in the normal game, the scenic elements are there for, like, something you have to interact with. You might have to maybe work around moving on a tile, or you might have to, climb up a building, or enter a building, or interact with the trees, or do something different like that. But yeah, so it's neat that what they do with those is, now, the scenic cards will actually let you interact with the buildings more. So this is just a brief idea of the game area once it's set up. I also like how this is because it's not Place 4 tiles in a giant square, and then place buildings on yours. So every time you're fighting a square. Nope, we're going to have tiles that are offset from each other. Sometimes they're going to be like a little, like, one gap between them, which is maybe like an alleyway. Like here, there's no way to get from this way to this way. You have to go all the way around. It definitely creates more of an environment. If you're used to other miniature campaign games, and I haven't played every one, but the few I have played, Zombicide, they're all basically the same size tiles, just square tiles. You put like a 9x9 or like a long angle. Same thing like Shadow. Massive Darkness is the same way. Both CMON games, it's kind of that. When you and I play games like the adventure system, like Ninja Turtles, or Batman, it's very much the same idea. Is you just have the big square tiles, and you might put 2 or 3 together, maybe up to 4 to make like a big giant room or area, or in a line. But this is kind of fun because you're gonna get different things will act in different ways, plus the buildings will go up. Now, there's only 4 buildings, unless you include the tower, which will be 5, but I don't think you'd ever have 4 buildings and the tower, unless you're playing some custom game. There are expansions that are coming out in the future, which will have extra different tiles, as well as extra scenic elements, for those campaigns that are used with that, which is kind of cool. So another thing we want to look at are these focus tiles. So we have little focus points. Our colored squares are to indicate specific points on the battlefield, which in general heroes interact with, take advantage. So on the little campaign card, it might show a little orange square. You'll put the orange token down, and they have different ones that'll interact with different direction or different not directions, different things. So like here's one of our mission cards for their example. It's showing what's all going to go on there. I unfortunately didn't pull a full booklet for this, but it's going to say like what characters go where. It's all the little dots, but it's also going to show your different houses. So 2 houses are 2x4s. So it's going to show them on there. It's going to show a 2x3 overlapping to form a tower. So unless you have, like, if they didn't have the stretched little tower, and it was just a regular core set, you would only be able to, you have to stack 2 buildings on top of each other to represent a tower. And they actually added a full tower in the game, but they let you keep your 2 buildings, obviously, because sometimes you're going to want 2 buildings. And then they're just going to show it has the mystery tiles you place down. You're going to place your cart, your well, your 4 trees, your 4 bushes. It'll show them on there. Their different symbols. Which tiles you're actually using. 1, 2, 3, 7, and 8B. One side's forest, one side's city. That shows your 3 mystery tokens. So you see, like, you have the blue, green, and yellow marks on there. So you have various other things on there you're going to interact with. And then, of course, the buildings are going to do with line of sight for height difference. Like, you can't see a guy that's not next to the edge of the map. You can't see through the blank areas. You can't see through trees. You can't see through other enemies. And this one's kind of showing some of the other directions there. So it's just saying, nope, you can't see those guys. You can't interact with them because they are out of line of sight. Just trying to think if there's any other little things we need to go look at before. Alright, then we have this, going to show all our different stuff, and we'll kind of talk about, we'll just run over these quick, and then we'll look at our different stuff. So, Scenic Element has some different things. Scenic Element cannot be moved or removed in any way from the battlefield. Others stated by instructions, action, or special rule. So, them cards that we're going to show up. Scenic Element have more than one of the following rules. Bulky occupies a square, and the Scenic Element does not have this rule. The squares are available So if it's in a bulky area, you can't go in that area. It blocks the entire thing. Blocking line of sight as if we're an opposing model. Towering has a call generic skill, see the handbook. Interactive, you can interact with the Scenic Element in the missions. So trees are bulky, blocking, and towering. So you can't see through a tree. You can't stand in the same spot as a tree. They're just going to take up room. Trapdoors are Scenic Elements that are interactive. They're usually to get inside certain buildings and stuff. A cart or wagon is bulky, but is interactive. So, while you can shoot over it and see through it to do stuff, you can't walk through it. You have to go around it. We have bushes, which are just bulky. They just get in the way. Buildings are categorized by their squares on the roofs, which are different heights, so 2x3s or 4x2s. And it says unless you have the tower, you can add that. Plus, again, other things are going to have more interactive elements. Levers, special scenic elements, follow the special interactive rule. Wells, which are bulky and interactive. Stones, which are bulky and blocking. You can't walk through stones. Ladders must be placed at rest against the wall of a building by spending 2 time model in the same square has the ladder to move to the nearest roof square which the ladder is leaning against, and vice versa. Mystic stones are bulky and interactive. There are special related stuff to them as well. So yeah, a bunch of different things on there. We do have some of the other tiles we're going to look at. We have special restrictions. We have water tiles. Represents water or other liquids and the following rules. Entering a water tile with a movement adds 1 additional cost. A model enter a water square immediately discards all burn if the water square cannot gain a burn token, which I do love that. That they made water as kind of an interesting new element. The other one that's like that is, if I can find it, is the mud tile. Muddy squares entering as 1 additional movement, but they immediately gain hinder. So very interesting there. Then if we look at our little handbook, we had the towering keyword it wanted us to look at. Or tall. So model with the tall skill or towering scenic element block line of sights also between different heights. Part of that means like you can shoot from one rooftop to the other if they're the same height, but you can't shoot from a small building to a tall building. Like straight across, you can't shoot through it if you had that much room. Now the back here, not the back, quite the back, in the middle here, we do have our different things showing our different things. So on the map, it'll show enemies in different colors, which will represent which one's which. Trees, bushes, wells, cart or wagon, stone, lever, trapdoor, ladders. The Blood of Gaia, which is a special interaction. Focus points, various areas that might interact with the Mystic Stones, the 2x4 house, the 3x3, or the tower, which is in the red. So you can kind of see how they're all work together like that. So yeah, lots of stuff going on here. Let's look at our tiles first. We kind of looked at these again in the beginning of the very first video. We didn't really take a look. There's not a lot to look at on them, but we still do want to take a look. Just because they're just more, again, they're not supposed to be like having all the interactive stuff like some of the other boards have. Like, again, if you're playing most dungeon crawlers, the boards will have like there's a room here, there's a room there, there's a door here. This isn't like that. The idea is you're fighting out in the open and you're doing stuff like that. So these are things to be working around. This is just more for movement. But they're definitely nice and pretty to look at. Again, there might be other things a layer on it you can add. So we can add stuff like bushes. So we can add some bushes on there. I said we have a couple of those. We do have one that's like a rose bush. And then we have one that is another yellow flower bush. So that's cool. We also add trees in there. And these all are very easy to take apart, so you can just slide them in and out. Now, I will say this with anything of this game, because they're cardboard and you can take them in apart really easily, is great for storage, so you don't have to have all these things built. They do actually stay pretty sturdy. So, like, sometimes I built 3D things, like, you pick these up, they're going to fall apart. You basically have to glue these together. Otherwise, now if I hold it from this side, it might fall out because that's the top piece. But that's easy enough to still kind of watch how you grab it. But yeah, some of these fall apart so quickly. But yeah, you might want to just glue them together. If you have the space to store this, you could definitely glue your bushes and your trees together. You can't really do that with the houses, and I'll show you why when we get to those. But again, if you have all the 3D elements from other games, you always mix them in. So if we do have our characters, such as like Sophia, I don't know if that's a Stragot or a Bruiser. We have some of the different enemies. You can see kind of like heights. We do have like these little springing guys who are a little bit shorter than everybody. As well as we could get like I don't know if this is the bully or not, but a bigger enemy who takes up a full tile. So even though, like, these guys don't take up the full tile, they can't share a tile. Like, little tiny guys can't share one. Now, there might not be quite enough room to fit a familiar in there as well. That's fine. There are also some instances of very large enemies which will take up more than one tile. And they're in expansion sets. Let's see if I can grab one quick. Oops. So we do get some enemies, like the Minotaur from one of the expansions. If I scoot everyone back, he's actually going to take up multiple tiles. So even though, again, there's spaces around him, he's taking up 4 tile spaces. And there are a couple of enemies that are bigger than that. Which is really fun. We're not going to get into what he does in this video. I just wanted to show off that there are bigger enemies and kind of how they look on the tiles. As long as we're looking at the tiles, the other thing we do have are 2 line of sight tools that we get. So we get a really long one, and then we get a shorter one. And this is just the idea so you can kind of, like, does this person have line of sight? So if, like, we weren't for sure, so we're like, oh, who can Sophia hit? She can obviously hit that guy. You can go like this, and you can be like, yep, she can hit him. Can she hit him? Yep. If you're not sure if that one's not long enough, you could grab the longer one. Yep, because he's not quite blocking it. But then you'd be like, oh, can he hit this guy? No. And obviously, some of these you might be like, well, obviously you can see that. Of course. But, like, you might get something like this. It's because it has to go from the center of one character to the other. So, now, can she go through the center of this to the center of him? And if you're not even sure there, you could always pick these up and be like, from the center of that one to the center of this one, it's running through that bush, right? If that's easier for you to check. Or if you're like not even that way, if you want to do it like that, you could go like this direction too. But you can see if it's running through there at all. Same thing would happen if she tried to run to this guy, right? If she tries to check it, she's going to go through the tile where the Minotaur or the bully guy is. Again, I don't remember if that's the bully. So that's it. It's nice that you have these just as a helpful thing. So very cool. I'm going to slide these guys all off to the side. We're going to finish looking at some of the tiles, and then we'll go through. So we're looking at side, the A side for each one. So at the top, it'll say what side it is. Yeah, so these are just more bushes and forest stuff. Again, very pretty to look at. Nothing extra special about them. So tile 3 has kind of like some dead animal carcasses, so it gets a little less pretty water. Now, there's some water tiles and some other stuff, but none of that actually makes any difference on here. And then for tile 4, we're kind of getting more into like more ground and stuff. So yeah, there's 4 tiles basically that you're going to be using of the big stuff. And then we can flip all of these over, and then we have city tiles on the B side. So if we're going to play in the city. Now here it does show like a building. Just assume this is like an empty lot, unless you put a building there. These do not necessarily mean that's where the buildings have to go. So here's 2. Like, yeah, there's a little mud, but there's really nothing that indicates what any of that stuff is. So those are foundations. There might be a very high chance that when you set these up, that's where they go in these positions. And they might have them set up that way, specifically for the town. Like, there's a spot for the well. We do have the well token. So you could go ahead and throw that in. But you can see, obviously, it doesn't even fit that size. Because it's just kind of how they made it. We got the well token, though, which is neat. It has double-sided. They did that for almost all the tiles, as well as the elements and stuff. Like the trees, obviously, are only going to be one thing in the bushes. But yeah, we have like a busted up one, like all dirty because it's for outdoors. And we have more of the clean one if you want to have it for the indoor street. You can kind of tell which one it goes because it has the like grass on the outside border. And this one has like the stone. So then the other thing we'll have is we'll have all the small tiles. So we'll get 5A and 6A, which will have 2 of those small ones. And if we flip into the other side, we have our streets. And this is so then, again, you can connect these tiles in such a way that, you know, you could even connect them something like this, right? And there could just be a gap in there, or it could be like that, you know, various things like that. You could even have some extra ones where maybe you have two of these combined, and it makes a longer path. Very interesting. Although we do have some longer ones for that. We have a 7 and 8A. But maybe even if you want to have something built like that. Now, again, the scenic things are going to tell you how to put these down, right? They're going to tell you where they go, how they go. But you always want to keep in mind something like this is you could potentially set up your own scenarios if you would like. It's not going to be impossible. We have a big L-shaped tile. So then you could have something like that, you know, if you want, or even add on to the corner of a map if you wanted to, which, you know, I have my camera way over there and you can't even see it. Something like that, and then this could be like over here. So yeah, we have something like that. Now, before I go on to the other special tiles we have, I want to look at a couple other quick things. One, we have our focus tiles. We mentioned before, one side will be town, one side will be forest. They don't really match what the image, like size-wise, would be. It's just, you know what, it's just more or less. They could just make these giant squares of that color, but they added a little flavor in there. So it's not a big thing there either way. Then we do have our elements like our carts. So we got 2 carts in the core and then one was for stretch. We have 3 different carts. These are the outdoor carts. And then we have the indoor carts, or the town carts. Now you kind of see more or less the same image, like that one's turned a little bit. Nothing generally too special different about them. But then they just add blocking elements in the town. So like you could usually have like, oh, there was a series of carts here, so now even though there's a tile right there, you still have to kind of go around them. Interesting stuff there as well. Then we do have our 2 rocks, which is basically you can't go around rocks. And we have, now both of these only have grass side because you're generally not going to probably find any rocks in the middle of town. So there are those. The last little ones is we have some trap doors, which are the same on both sides. These can just be added probably onto the houses, but you can add them into the town. They might have something like, hey, there's a trap door in the middle of this town. Probably, again, you won't have these in the forest, though, for most scenarios. Alright, so before we look at the rest of them, I want to look at the houses. So, I'm just going to move these out of the way. And we're going to look at one of the buildings. So, I built one of the buildings, so it's going to just go right there. So, this is a 2x2, or a 3x3, sorry. And the idea is you should be able to tell that from the number of spaces on the row. 1, 2, 3. So again, it's just going to take up those tiles, but you keep your same number on there. What's neat about these is that they're exchangeable. You can pull them apart, you can switch them around. So these are the city ones, and then the other sides are for, like the map tiles, are for the forest. Again, with like the trees and everything, there's an up and down side to this. It's cool because it makes it so you don't have to have 14 buildings, right? I don't have to have 4 for the forest, 4 for the indoor, and have to have all this extra components, and I don't have to sit around and wait for that, have them built and always be in my way. I can deconstruct them all, but there is going to be some wear after time, so it's also something to keep in mind. If you don't really care for the aesthetic reason why, you could go ahead and build all 4 of your buildings plus like the tower and stuff if you have room to store them, glue them together and just be done with it, and then you wouldn't have to worry about flipping them around, because there's nothing that's ever going to say use this specific building. It's just use this size building. Yeah, so it's just kind of also neat to see like the height difference on some of these things. Like if we put a tree next to it, even though I know we're indoors. Like, right, just have a trap door on there. You know, I don't think you'd ever have a bush up there. Then we do have 4 ladders, because there are 4 potential buildings on every map. So I'm not going to sit there and say every single one has a ladder on it. It probably will, otherwise, or you have to find some way to be able to put a ladder on there. But it might not. There might just be some, like, you have to be able to climb to get up to the top. And there's various characters that just have climb abilities. So I'm going to just move all these guys off again quick, so we can kind of look at some of the building comparisons. So this is one of them we have, which is like a red brick building, which looks really cool. A little mouse on there. Some posters. And then we have like the little town thing on the top. And you can kind of see how it matches. We have our other indoor one of that size, which is a white building. Has some bushes on top, like a little garden. This is just a little white, like, tavern type building. We get our 2x4s. So we have this blue one. You can see I'm picking these up and I'm moving them around. And I'm not, like, holding them, being tight, holding them, worried about they're going to fall apart. I'm not saying that if you start, like, bashing these around, they won't fall apart. But I can pick them up, I can move them around and show you, and they're not falling apart. So they're actually built really nice. So here's another tavern, the Orias Stacia Pozzica. I don't speak Italian. I love the little things for your horse range. That's pretty cool. So yeah, so these are the 4 indoor building or like town buildings you can have. But what we can do is we can pull them apart fairly easily. So just pull the ends off. Pop the top off, but you can see how you're gonna eventually be careful so you don't get wear and tear. But now we can flip everything over and rebuild it the other direction, and it builds pretty darn easy. I say that and I'm gonna struggle a little bit. It's not like super snapped together, but they fit very nicely. They fit snug. But after time, again, they might start to wear out. So I can definitely see why some people might be like, I'm just going to build this and keep it. Maybe you want to build 2 indoor buildings, like one long, one short, and then one long indoor, one long outdoor. And then, again, worst case scenario, I have this wooden tavern in my town. Yes, it's going to take away from the aesthetic of it. But again, it might keep you from having to, like, wreck these if you have to keep building them. Alternatively, if you never find find this copy of this game really cheap, you could buy a second set. You could actually build all 4 of them then. Again, but I don't know if you have space for that. But yeah, so there's the wooden La Prolosia outdoor building. So I'm going to pause and I'm going to do the rest of these really quick. Alright, so I rebuilt these all. So here's our 3x3. Various little different houses. Little grass on the top. We have the other one, which is a red one. Some hay there, some more hay up on top on that one. And then our other big long one was a kind of like yellowy wooden one. All run down rustic. So these are meant for kind of being outside. Now, again, could you always put these rusticy ones in the town? Yeah, it's a beat up town maybe. You could do that as well. So the other thing that comes up, I'm sure people will probably ask, can I mix and match them? Do I have to use this top with this? Or can I swap these tops around? You can kind of see where they kind of themey somewhat fit where they're supposed to be, like wooden plank type of thing. But yeah, there's nothing saying you couldn't mix this wall with that wall, or like one red this, or the other ones were the white and blue buildings, or the red and that. You couldn't mix them all together. There's nothing saying you can't combine any of these parts. You can even do half rustic, half indoor, however you want. The only thing you can't really do is you can't mix the long and short size with the medium size, because the roofs would never fit. But that being said, you can kind of do whatever you want. Nothing's going to stop you. Again, there's nothing specifically says the blue building, the red building, the white building. It just says this size or that size. So one other thing they do mention is the tower. They mention in there about stacking 2 buildings on top of each other. So this would be obviously generally for the city. There's usually not the tower out in the main town, but it might tell you to do that. And you can kind of now see if we like put some of our guys along there. We'll see the height difference up there of a, zoom back out a little bit, of the double stacked tower that you might have to do. So these are ones that are 2 heights. You have to have 2 climb to get up there. Now the ladders are only 1 high. They didn't make way for these to combine. So I don't know if you can actually use a ladder or if the ladder just counts all the way up. It didn't really say that. It just said you can use it to climb up. I would assume you could use them all the way up. They just didn't probably make a double-sized ladder. But yeah, so obviously your character, like here, they can't even see each other if they're right there because there's a building in the way and there's different size. If I had another building even like right here, I could have a guy that could climb 1, and they could climb 2, and you could even set like ladders, they could do that. But if they fell off of here, it's really going to hurt. Now for the stretch goal box, they did actually add the tower in here. Scoochies. So we get a full-on 3D tower. Now you can actually see it's even a little bit taller than 2 stacked buildings, which I think is cool because then it kind of separates it from everything else. And it does make it actually look very imposing versus, like when I'm kind of some of the different sized guys on there. And even said on here, the tops, they can't quite get all the way in that square. But it's going to be the same thing. It's going to be the 3x3. But that's really fun that they added that in there. This also comes in double-sided. So you can get a gray one, if you like, a big old gray tower. So kind of like the grass on there. So it might be like maybe the outdoor tower. Or we can flip it around and we can get the red side. So we can build that really quick. And again, I will definitely commemorate this team. They made these. They fit together really well. They're easy enough to take apart. My only concern would be the inevitable wear and tear, especially like on these parts. Like if they get moved just a little bit wrong and it starts touching on the edge of that cardboard and it starts tearing, that is such a pain to do. Yeah, so there's our red ones if you want the red one. Again, you could mix and match the sides. This has grass on there too. The top is the same on both of them, so that doesn't make a difference, as you can kind of see in there. But yeah, it's very cool that we have that. The last scenic element we have, we're not going to spend too much time on, is the one for the one event. This is just the front of a house with a step on it. It's the same on either side. So you can put the thing on either way when you dismantle it back down. And this just kind of acts as like a front for something they might have to get to or a background. I know some of the future ones that are coming out, there's a bridge, as well as there's a forge. And then there's also the catacombs, which are going to add more of the dungeon crawler effect to the game. Alright, so then the last thing, well, one of the last things we want to look at is we want to go look at some of the last couple of tokens in here that we didn't see. Oh, we still have some maps to go through. We'll look at these tokens really quick, then we'll finish the rest of the maps. I forgot about those. We have our little elemental tokens here. So we have like just the 4 like fire, water, earth, and whatever purple is. And these just sit on the board, and there's going to be something that's going to interact with them. And it's kind of like light, and then it's like turned off. Like, so turned on, turned off. And then these 2 are turned on, and then they get turned off. So various things will interact with these throughout the game. They might move something somewhere. We do also have a Shide of Gaia, one of the Titans, which has some interactions on the map. We have 2 levers. I'm only going to show one here. These will be on top of a building. It might like open a door or trigger something somewhere. The last 3 tokens we have to show off, which are pretty much then it goes through all our tokens for the game, is we have a fire token and a water token. And these might just show various stats of various things. These might be on the board, just things you have to interact with. Like you set something on fire, it might be like, hey, you can't go on there. It's not to show your burn. There's actually the burned negative stats icon. This might maybe show like maybe a tree or something's on fire, or there's a fire in front of this door. Maybe you have to go to the well and get the water bucket and put the fire out. So kind of some interesting stuff there. There might be a way to maybe put down your character. And then the last one is we have this little lamp, which I think is specific card will note what this does. I just wanted to show that one off because it's one of the only tokens I haven't shown in the game. Alright, then we want to look at the last of the tiles we forgot to look at. So the first one we have, which is part of the regular base set, let me zoom my camera back out, was the Mud, which has one slow anytime you walk through it, as well as you gain a hindering token, and the other side was Water. So what's different here is this is like a piece of paper, as opposed to being a full solid tile. I think the idea of it is supposed to be, is you set it up like this, right? So I have my town, and you're actually setting it on top of it. So it might be, hey, there is a water element in between these. So now, can my characters still cross over here? Yes, they absolutely can. But they have to like even add like this, like right. So if I have my characters like this, they can get across to the other side, but they can only use this one break. But if they don't want to wait, they can spend the extra points to move through the water. Yeah, so a very interesting, different way to play that. And the other side would be the same thing. You could throw the mud. So if I was playing like in the forest, right, you could add mud tiles on here and be like, I got tiles in my way. Just be like, you know, here's a swamp area between these two tiles, right? So if you want to get from this side to that side, you know, like maybe you have your one house here, you have your other house over here. So, right, if you want, well, you can do it like that so you can kind of see it. But, right, you want to get between these, you're going to have to cross the swamp, which is going to slow you down. So ranged characters might have a little bit more of an advantage. So that's a fun, interesting other element. And I really love to see more of that. Like, I don't know if they have it in the other ones, but, like, I only, some of the other ones are doing, like, the forge, or they're doing, like, the catacombs. It'd be kind of cool to see, like, pits in there. Like, just even a tile like this is just like, hey, here's a pitfall area, like a hole or like a cliff. So like maybe there's a thing like you have to put a bridge between the two areas. That might be kind of neat as well. Our next two tiles are 5A and 5-6. These were added for the stretch goals. So what these do is this is the mountain pass. So this is going to work just like any other tile. It's just if you want a different outdoor scenic element, instead of just fighting in the grass or fighting in the town, you might be able to jump out to the mountain. It might have some specific quest that represent it. It could be fun for like a boss fight, like if you're fighting like one of the bosses is a bear. Fight them out here in the wilderness instead. But then they have the black areas, which are the big rocks, which work just like our rock tokens. You can't pass through them. You can't walk over them. I think it specifically says that in this stretch goal book, if I find them. Yeah. So it says block square, black border, no model may enter a block square. So it just adds specific spots on the map that you can't enter, which I think is a really cool thing. And also, they can need like something like that. They could have even added like tokens for that, like right, you could put on the board. They could also work for like in town. You have like the carts and stuff like that. It's the same idea essentially. They could have added the same thing like boulders or something for the forest. So we get a second one which has just a little bit different tile setup on there. Has some dead animals. Then the other side is we get poison squares. This is a swamp tile. So you've already seen the swamp tile before. So it can be used in case regular for either as explore missions or for your missions you create. So the exploration missions are like special ones we can do, or they can be used, but they're probably not going to be used in the general campaign because they want specific things in there. And it might break that. But now these have the little green borders on them. These are poisonous tiles. Then we have the other one there. And this basically is the same exact thing as your other swamp tiles. So, right, we have our regular swamps. It's going to follow all the swamp stuff, except now we can have a swamp, a bigger swamp that you have to fight, and it also has poison areas, which say, hero enter activation on a square must roll 2 dice. If they obtain at least 1 success with 5 or more, nothing happens, otherwise they gain a poison. Yeah, so that makes that kind of fun as well. Just other things you have to deal with. Alright, then the very last tile is basically just for special missions. So this is 1V, and this is just inside of an actual building. There's a specific mission that, in the stretch goal missions, that lets you go inside this building. You do something, you have to interact. There's different rooms you can move around. So yeah, it's kind of neat because it does add a little bit more of that dungeon crawly feel to the game. But I'm glad there's not a ton of this because I don't want to be fighting indoors. I like the or outdoor thing a little bit. Then the other side has ones that have all the factions in there. So we have Rome, Venice, Mercenaries, Pavla, and sorry, these are myths. Vienus, myths. And Pavla, so the other enemies. So the 5 different types of enemies in the game. And again, this is used for a special mission. And I don't even mind that. You have a tiles here and there that are only used for specific things, instead of always being used for everything. That's okay here and there. Alright, so those are all the tiles. That's all the scenic element. Then we want to look at the cards. So we can kind of see what each one does. I was originally just going to like show these off as we went through each one of them. But we're doing it this way instead. So here's how the back of them. They're going to have a little 2 on there. Just mentioning because there's other element cards of the... There's like the 3 different flags. These are for exploration mode. There's cards that deal with 1 and 2. So here we have a 3x3 house. And I just like these as... Again, you can even possibly work these into the campaign. The only problem might be is that, like, you probably can't destroy a house if you have to use that house to interact in the campaign. So, unless you know the scenario and you've read it and you know why you know if you have to enter it or if it's just a building that's there, and you, like, write ahead or you know that's how it's going to be or you can tell, you can kind of play it by ear. So this has 12 health, big, blocky, towering, and interactive. Placement, 3x3 house occupies 9 squares, maximum 1 building per tile. Has a prelim of 0. Collapse. Occurs when a building suffers each final damage. Each hero adjacent to or on top of the building must perform a speed test. For each die roll which does not produce a success, the hero suffers 1 unblockable damage. And we got a second one for the other house, which has the exact same effect. So if you want either one. And then we have one for a 2x2 and another one for the 4x2, not 2x2. Same thing, does the exact same thing, just different size. And I think they just had both of them included because if you have both houses out, you could put the damage on this tile instead. So we have specifically an apple tree. 8 health, bulky, blocking, towering placement. Apple tree occupies 1 square. Cannot be placed on a square adjacent to a non-zone or a bulky scenic element. So you can't put it next to another bush, another tree or house, because you have to have a little bit of space. An apple a day. Once per mission, a hero adjacent to an apple tree can spend 1 time to roll 1 die. If they gain a success, discard health. A hero can spend a maximum of 3 times to perform this action. So that's really cool, right? It takes just the tree from being an element on the board that's just there to giving it something to do. They do this, spoilers, they do this for a crossover with Black Rosewort. We have Gaia, the like Earth Titan. She actually has trees in hers that then you have to attack, and they attack you. They become creatures. So I like that as a fact of taking these 3D elements and not just having them be things that are on the board in your way, but having them be things that you can interact with or do stuff with. Does it have to happen all the time? Absolutely not. But it does make it cool when you do it. Then we just have a regular tree. We have 2 bushes. Have 5 health and bulky. Can't be placed next to bulky senior non-zone. Hideout. If a hero is adjacent to a bush, the target of a physical attack performed by an enemy not adjacent to them, they gain 1 automatic check when performing a defense test. So that, again, it makes the bush, instead of just being a thing that's sitting there, because something that you can actually like use as a cover, which is neat. So even if you want to like get rid of the health aspect of it, and that you just want to use it for a special ability, like for like standard mode, so you don't end up breaking something. That's actually pretty cool too. I do like the health in like some guys trying to hit you and they can't because, adjacent to a bush by an enemy not adjacent to them. So if they're trying to shoot you like an arrow or something, you can hide behind it and like someone's gonna have to walk over and destroy this bush so they can get to you. We have the trapdoors, which are interactive. They can't be destroyed. Place the 2 trapdoors on 2 different squares within 5 squares of one another anywhere on the battlefield. Secret passage. The hero is in a square with a trapdoor, then spend 3 time to place their model on the other trapdoor. So that's really neat too. We can go between different tiles. And that might even be a neat way of like, hey, here's this like bridge pass you can go through. Or you could have one on one tile, have a gap between them, have one on the other. You could use the trapdoor on the far side of the map to interact to the other side rather than taking the bridge where all the enemies are. You can maybe sneak up behind them. We have a cart. 8 health, interactive and bulky. Occupies 2 squares, non-adjacent, non-bulky. Pillage. If the cart is destroyed, the hero adds 5 regent cards of the type of their choice to the loot without revealing them. So again, that's just a neat idea. Like, I can now spend my attack time destroying this cart to gain extra regent versus doing something else. Is that the best thing to do? Maybe, maybe not. Some missions are timed. Sometimes it might not. You might just have, hey, I have an extra. I'm standing over here. I can't hit the enemy. They're way over there. Let me just do this extra thing really quick. Maybe I can destroy this. Might be worth getting the regents. Might make the game a little bit easier. We have a fig tree. So placement, same as the other ones. Cool with a surprise. A hero adjacent to a fig tree can spend 1 time to roll 1 die. If they obtain a 4+, discard 1 damage. If they obtain a 1, gain a disadvantage token. So yeah. Just not as the apple tree necessarily, but still cool. We have another tree, so that'd be our 4th tree. For our 3rd bush, we had 2 bushes here. We have the gang, which is the little yellow ones. Rummage. Once per mission, a hero adjacent to a gang can spend 1 time to roll a die. 7 or 8 gain 1 of the one type of region. 5 or 6 gain the other one, or 3 or 4 gain 1 of the other one. 1 or 2 suffer 1 unblockable damage. So neat. Another way to potentially gain some extra regions. We have the poisonous roses. Lethal perfume. A hero enters a square adjacent to a poison rose, gains a poison token. So this again works really cool in the fact of, instead of being like, hey, here's an interactive element I can do something fun with, it's I now have to walk around this bush, or do I run by it, take a poison token, but I don't have to go 5 squares all the way around the board. So it's like, let me just scooch this off to the side here, right? So if we kind of lay our character on the board and we have that poison bush here, right? If it's over here, so I need to get over to this spot over here, right? So I can either go 1, 2, 3, 4, but I'm going to take a poison thing for walking through there. And now it says enters a square adjacent to it, it gets a poison token. So adjacent would only be this one. It's not counting that. So I take that. Or do I have to go, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 instead of going 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So I have to spend them 2 extra points to go all the way around this, or do I just take the poison token? I think that's, again, a fun little extra bonus there, right? So that's kind of cool. We have the well. Placement occupies 4 spaces, must be placed each 1 square away from a scenic element. Pure water. Hero adjacent to the well can spend 2 time to discard a negative status token. We have the lever. Kronk, pull the lever. Lever occupies 1 square, can be placed any available square in a tile where it was drawn. So trap once per mission, a hero adjacent to the lever can spend 4 times to choose an enemy on the battlefield. That enemy suffers 2 damage and gains a hindered token. It's just supposed to be like there's a trap. You're activating some sort of trap, basically, by pulling this lever. We have 3 ladders. So placement of ladders must be placed in a square adjacent to a building leaning against it. Up and down. Model is in the same square as the ladder. May spend 2 to move to the nearest square of the building, which is the ladder leaning, and vice versa. So you can go up and down it. We have a rock. Which has 10 health. You can destroy the rock. Up to 2 spaces away from. Rock out of 2 squares must place 1 square from a bulky sneak item. Mineral. When a hero attacks the rock and inflicts 3 damage with a single attack, they add 1 metal or material loot. So that's fun as well. Then we have some for the 4 different element stones we saw. So again, we have these. We're like, what do we do these with? Add this on there. So occupies 1 square anywhere, at least away from a bulky. Purple energy for the amethyst. A hero adjacent to the amethyst may spend 2 to gain an advantage token. The emerald may spend, adjacent to it may spend 3 to discard a health. For the ruby, adjacent to the ruby may spend 2 to inflict 1 unblockable damage to themselves and the enemy within 3 squares. Spaces. And sapphire, adjacent to sapphire may spend 2 to gain an astro token. And then the final one is we have is the tower. Blocky bulking tower and interactive. Backups. Each time you perform an enemy draft for a rank 1 enemy, including those for initial deployment, perform an additional 1 and place the enemy thus generated adjacent to the entrance of the tower. Just like, hey, that's shiny. It's like we have the building here, and it's like just that being like the first ones are just like the regular buildings. This is like, hey, here's this building, but now there's extra enemies inside of it. So that's cool. They could have pushed some of these a little bit farther as well. Like we had the 2 different trees, which is cool, the 2 different bushes, which is neat. It would have been neat if they had the carts, which had some different extra elements in there. Like maybe you like broke 1 cart open and it had regions in there, but maybe a different one had an item or equipment in there, like, right? Hey, draw the, like, shuffle, like, randomly draw, like, a card from the, equipment deck. You can see the back of it, you know what it is, so maybe it's like draw the bottom card. You wouldn't know what that one is necessarily, unless they shuffle through. But yeah, that could have been something interesting there. You know, the bush thing, they could have had that been either way, like either person attacks either way, or the poison works either way. I think it did it say either person? Yeah, it just says a hero adjacent to it. Like, it would have been kind of neat if it been like, if an enemy goes adjacent to the bush, they take damage as well. They could have pushed some of these a little bit farther. Even the buildings, like I said, currently right now, the buildings have no significance other than just being that. It would be neat if that's where they had the alternate sides. Would have been like, oh, if you're playing the blue building, or the red building, or the one that looks like a tavern or a bar, like, maybe there's some other way to interact with it. Like, again, you're not using these in the campaign. You're using them for your own mode or exploration mode. So it might have been neat if they have been like, oh, like you could interact with this building and do this, or interact by it, maybe find something near it. There just could have been some more cool cards. And it's the thing is, the way this game is, you can always make up your own. Obviously, you can always do that for any game. Or they could add expansion, little mini packs or little boosters. Something like that to add some cool stuff like that. That would definitely be neat. Alright, that is what we have for our scenic element. Come back for the next video. We're going to finally jump into some enemies. That'll be the big next thing. And then we'll finally look at some campaign stuff, which is lots of spoilers. So we'll kind of give you that as best as we can. And then we'll start looking at promos and expansions in the future. Alright, see you guys later. Bye.